Clarissa. We are in the limelight with, oh, what an extraordinary entrepreneur today. He's a doctor. Not only a doctor, but he's kind of like the doctor. It helps us women look a whole lot better than we should at a certain age. And I'm so excited about that. But let me bring on him in just a little bit while I tell you that you can watch these videos on Roku, Chromecast, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire, Pluto, Zumo, Sony, and Dailymotion, to name a few. We also are going to have our podcast. You can listen to that on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Podbean. The digital magazine is In the Limelight with Clarissa, Intelligent Media for the Savvy Entrepreneur. You can get over to clarissaburt.com. Take a look at the magazine. It really is beautiful. We're going to have Lady Carnarvon coming up on our next drop on March 1st. She is Lady Carnarvon and Lord Carnarvon. They own Highclere Castle, which is the Downton Abbey Castle. So I'm really thrilled that she's going to be on our next cover. With that having been said, I do want to remind you also about mynewsdesk.com. My news desk is my new best friend in that they help us get out our PR releases, our news releases, and we have had a really great run with them so far. They're over in Sweden. They've got phenomenal support. So if you're looking to promote your business, get the word out and bigger event. I mean, they have journalists all over the world that you are able to access. It's really the place to be, and I'm having a great time there. So without further ado, I am going to bring on our guest. He is a doctor, and he is a MD FACS, and I'm going to have him tell us all about what exactly that means. I never did a hello there, Dr. David Hartman, MD. What's the FACS? I never did know what that meant.
It's a fellow of the American College of Surgeons. So,
well, of course. Of course it is. I'm going to reverse engineer, I think, this interview a little bit by saying that you have 6 dogs, a cat, 2 goats, and a miniature horse by the name of Farmer.
Right. Yes. And a cat. So yes, we have quite a zoo.
And a cat. There's a menagerie going on over there at that farm. That's awesome. That is really, really cool.
So, 2 of them are puppies, so that's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and you have 2 children, and you're married, sir. Welcome to the show. It's really nice to have you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. You have an extraordinary story, and I wanted to start at the story where you are. Okay, let's start where you first in New York City. Then we'll play around with this a little bit. But I too went through the New York City thing before I also went into the arts, if you will, like much like you did in commercials and acting and film, and I was on daytime television and the like. How did you find yourself there? And then we're going to work from there to how you got to being a doctor.
Oh, okay, great. Well, so that's a great question. So I, like many people, have a career path that took some turns, and I guess I would say I'm grateful for that. As I was going through undergrad, I applied to medical school, and at that first effort, I didn't get in. So I was rejected to medical school that first time. And then I went to South America to sort of like figure out what was next. And on $6 a day, I traveled 10,000 miles for 7 months and learned Spanish and just an appreciation of what South America was about.
Right.
So I started doing commercials sort of by accident, and then went to New York City, and because I thought, well, acting is really fun. I really like it, and it was great. And I thought I could maybe do okay in it. And so I went to New York City and started really training as an actor, and I had some success with commercials and soap opera.
And you're out Los Angeles as well. I know it says here that you also are a Screen Actors Guild. I was too for some while, but yeah. So it sounds like there a certain point we were kind of heading down the same path, you and I. I don't know.
You may have been in the city at the same time.
I was there in the early '80s, and then I went over to Europe.
So was I. Yeah, I moved there in '83, and I was there till '90, and then I moved to LA for a while. So
yeah, I moved to LA too, but not before. I went to Italy for 30 years.
I know. That's what everybody's doing. I wish I could go to Italy for like a week or 2. You went for 30 years. It's like
it sounds like you know more about me than I know about myself. But all right, I digress. Let's move on. So listen, at a certain point, that was doing really well, and you something happened with your dad and he got sick.
Right.
And you, as you were, sort of going through the process with dad, you were watching the hospital staff and how they were taking care of him. And this really touched your heart.
Right. Yeah, so it did. It absolutely did. So yeah, he got lung cancer and he died pretty quickly. And I would say it tore a hole in my heart 10 times bigger than I would have expected.
Right.
Like amazing. And I was also looking for, maybe something more people oriented than what I was. I mean, I was pretty people oriented, but that would be more fulfilling, I guess. And
right.
I applied to medical schools. I ended up getting into several of them, and then ended up going into head and neck surgery and then eventually facial plastic surgery. So I'm kind of a head and neck surgeon and a certified facial plastic surgeon now.
Right. I'm a Philly girl, by the way, just to raise my Don't tell me you knew that too. I'm not going to
know that. No,
but I mean, your accolades are, as long as my arm. I mean, so to graduate magna cum laude is really quite an accomplishment, my kind sir. And so after that, you then opened up your practice, which is fineartsskinandlaser.com. So I'm going to make sure that we get that on the ticker underneath so everybody knows exactly how to and where to find you. Okay. And you're an artist. And so that was the part I think that intrigued me the most, because you are an extraordinary artist. And I know there has to be a correlation between, the canvas that you're painting on and then the canvas that you're working on in the operating theater.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, all of my early life, I was going to be an artist. That was my direction. And so I really love that. In this, so in plastic surgery, isn't plastic, by the way. That's a great term to use. So it's nothing. What we do is a very natural. We do living fat transfers, and we try to stay away from anything synthetic or implants or everything. We goal is really to have a very, very natural process and a very natural looking result. The art that I've been doing over the last 25 years is more painting restoration. I buy distressed paintings from all over the world and then restore the frame, the canvas, and that sort of thing too. So this is my art over the last 25 years. But in this practice, again, it's about, seeing proportion that needs to be there, visualizing a final end result.
Sure, absolutely.
With the client to find out what they're looking for, and then producing results.
And that's kind of where I wanted to go with you too, when it comes to, not only do you have to be an artist, but you have to be a psychologist all at the same time, or psychiatrist in some cases, I'm assuming. And so, when is it that?
In a way, right? I mean, you're dealing with the public too. I mean, many of us do that, but yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. But I think where I was going with this is, how is it that maybe I'm sure you've had an occasion where you've had to, kind of talk someone off of the, plastic surgery edge by saying, wait a minute, do we really have to go that far? I think that if we did half of what you want us to do, the result's going to look really, really good all the same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have to really kind of, work your magic, I think, also on a psychological level many times.
Right. I mean, I would say 2/3 of the requests we get, we really try to steer people back down from that. There's many people, a lot of people don't really appreciate how nice we actually look. We have some perception that's not real. So many people just really need to hear that, you're really looking pretty awesome.
Right.
And let's just kind of go through a bit low-hanging fruit. It just seems like you got to try to stave off surgery as a last resort, basically.
Right. Yeah. I'm really interested to know what are some of the latest techniques, doctor, if you don't mind my asking, for, what are like the latest and the greatest things that are coming in, hopefully non-invasive, because I am a little bit of a FIFA.
Okay. So I would say that's a great question, because today's customer, client is looking for a very, very quick recovery and as minimally invasive as possible. Today's client wants something that looks extremely natural. They don't want anything synthetic, and they want it to be comfortable. So our I tell you what we're doing more than anything else is living fat transfers. So I know you don't, but it's not very invasive. So for us, 50 to 70% of people who have a living fat transfer, we harvest fat from where they don't want it and put it where they do want it. 50 to 70% go back to the daily routine the very next day. So it's a very, very quick recovery. And many people leave here after the procedure and go do their run. So it's not a difficult recovery. It's tiny little quarter-inch incisions placed in various.
Yeah.
It's true though. And you have a 97% fat viability, and then build it back very strategically to places to really restore youthful fullness and beauty and balance that you can't do any other way.
Wow.
We love it.
And what about that vampire thing that they were talking about for a long time? Is that still?
Yeah, I mean, that's called PRP, platelet-rich plasma, and we don't use that as much as we used to. We use it in our radio frequency microneedling devices. But as we harvest blood, you spin out the growth factors in plasma, and then drip it into the skin when you're doing a procedure that's going to cause some perforations in the skin.
Needling? Is it needling? Like a needling?
Microneedling. We use radio frequency microneedling, or we use some kind of laser that perforates the skin, and then drip it back in. And it does really truly look nice. It helps grow hair for people who are losing their hair. It's one of those things that you use it by the orthopedists and racehorse industry to help people heal faster and get better. And
so what else is hip and happening right now?
Hip and happening. So Insult is a device that uses electromagnetic energy to cause thousands of body contractions. So it's the equivalent of doing 20,000 sit-ups or crunches in a period of a half an hour. Or you can use one for building a pelvic floor, so it's equivalent of doing 11,000 Kegels in a half an hour. To really get.
Oh God. Okay.
I know.
Did we really have to go there, Dr. David? I'm just saying.
It affects a lot of people. So we want stuff that they can recover really fast from and looks really natural. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, I told you if I lived closer, I'd be over there more than you probably. Listen, I hear that you're going to be speaking. What's that?
You love clients that are fun too. So. Yeah.
I hear that you're going to be speaking at an event, the Business of Beauty event, Dallas, Texas, and that happened. No, that happened. How did it go?
Yeah. So, great. Yeah. So, yeah, I speak there about this laser, Beautiful, and help people who are looking at it to see if that's the right thing for them. So we have beautiful before and after. What we do, and they also talk about building a practice. So that might be interesting for our clients. What is the entrepreneurial process? What is it that we do? Where do we get our coaching? What are the pillars of what we use to build our practice? So I talk about building an entrepreneurial practice that is fun and it works and it's sustainable and it's exciting. So that's my jam. I really love that.
Right. So how is it that you as an entrepreneur, because obviously, you from what I'm reading, there's very little you don't know how to do. I mean, you're really very well accomplished, and it looks like you've got a life at 360 degrees, which is awesome.
One's what it said.
Yeah, but I don't have, what is it? I don't have a miniature horse named Farmer. I don't. I don't have 6 dogs and a cat and 2 kids and a husband. I don't know all of that. Anyway, what is it that you do as an entrepreneur to create that, that culture of excellence, if you will, in your practice? And how do you keep it fun? Because I know you do. I've heard that through the great. There was a little birdie that told me you kind of keep things fun around there.
Okay. So for us, we really, really, really go to get great coaching. So we really seek out all over the world people who can coach us in building a great practice, and then we implement that. We work on building an amazing. So I get to have 5% of the contact that a client has with our company, and 95% of it is with my team. And I tell you, 10 times a day that they say what a great team we have here, because we really do. So We really work on hiring for character and training for skills. I mean, that's sort of the big thing for us. And then here's the thing for key performance indicators in our practice, we have 4 or 5 that we really look at, and one of them is job satisfaction. So that is one of the things that we work on constantly, how to make the job more satisfying. How do you see a fulfillment in your job? How do you see challenge in your job? How do you have a team that really is fun to come to work with? How do you have flexibility in your job? And how do you have the compensation and perks that you were looking for so that it's a really all-around great job? I think we should work to live, not live to work, right? And that's for me too. I want to have my job support my life, not the other way around.
Right.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
So we work on our business, not just in it. We're always looking at how to make it so that we can animate stuff that's boring and so it can go faster. We want to be using our best and highest strengths all day long. So, I mean, we really are always looking at how to orchestrate the rollout of our client care so that it is reproducible and just as awesome as it can be.
So you make it intentional. I mean, it's an intentional effort for you to, just make sure that, I know you as a person are, it's obvious that you've been working on yourself since day one, but it's not always easy when you bring other people into the equation, right? Family and then business. I mean, you have to kind of make it all work, and it's not always that easy. Here's a question that I do, however, love to ask people that are as accomplished as you are. And that is this. And you can't say marriage and you can't say children. They can't answer with that. What would you say that in your lifetime up to now has been your crowning moment?
I really like the company that we're in right now. The company we've built. For me, it's a dream come true. It's something I want to. I'm 60 now, so I'm trying to get up there. But I would love to work another 20 years or 20. If I will retire into this business, not retire from it. I love it. I love coming here. I can echo the sentiments of my staff. It's like, it's more fun to be here during the week than it is, be away from here on the weekend. It's really fulfilling, always challenging. For our practice, every 6 months we're 35% different than we were. Always innovating and changing, which is really exciting and fun.
Right. Where do you see fine arts, skin and
laser?
Thank you. Where do you see yourself? Now it's right there on the ticker. All I had to do was read it. But that's just every day I'm having. Yeah. Where do you see you guys? Where do you see the planning in 5 years?
5 years, gosh, I don't even know if I ever go out that far. 3 years is about as far out as I go.
I will take 3.
Yeah, okay. So maybe you can vision that far out on your.
I'd like to think I've got a 5 and a 10-year plan, but I'd like to have a plan for an hour from now. But
yeah, so for us, we're doing more and more sort of teaching. I guess we're to support the industry as a whole and other practices that are coming along. Just trying to advance the art of what we're doing. Living fat transfer for us is like where it's all at. I mean, it's just we're doing face masks, we do umbrellas, we do a lot of super lasers, and we love that stuff too. But living fat transfers are just so rewarding, exciting, and fun, and just makes such a world of difference for people.
That's awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough. I want to, first of all, let everybody know where they can find you. So again, we've got fineartskinandlaser.com. I know you can find Dr. David Hartman there. And he's on social as well. He's on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram as Fine Arts Skin and Laser and Fine Arts Skin and Laser. There you go. I think that's where we can find you, right, sir?
Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Please, any last words?
It's really been a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this time with you. I'm so impressed with you, too. I mean, you're focusing on me, but you're the impressive one. I mean, you have been director, producer, writer, actress. You mastered it all.
Here's my, you want to see my, that's the Never Ending Story Part 2, where I was the mean queen, Zaida.
Yeah, I saw it.
That's Whitney Houston. That's Whitney Houston.
Yeah, see that?
There's Pope John Paul II.
Oh, yeah.
See, maybe you should come to Phoenix and hang out here for a little bit too.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, you're very kind to say. I just thought I'd give you this last little tidbits before we say goodbye, Dr. David. I can't thank you enough for being on the show, and I'm going to ask you to stay right there. Everybody, thanks again for following along in the limelight with Dr. David and myself. You know that the next episode, for sure, will have yet another extraordinary entrepreneur. Be well until the next time. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of the In the Limelight podcast, intelligent media for the savvy entrepreneur. You can listen to this and all of my podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, and Inspired News Radio. You'll find all of my videos and the In the Limelight digital magazine on ClarissaBurt.com. And don't forget to connect with me on social pretty much anywhere. Stay well until we meet again in the Limelight.